welcome back to the final video in the JrX2 restoration project series here on my channel. Since we moved on into the Junior 2 SE project series, which is going to take a back seat for a while because I have stripped everything off of the chassis so that I can mail the chassis to the RC Retro channel, Ari's channel. The reason being, Ari has a Junior 2 on the shelf that he does not intend on running, that he intends on keeping as a shelf queen, and his chassis is not mint. This chassis that I got from Richard when I bought the new old stock Junior 2 is mint. And I plan on running mine, and that seems like an awful shame when someone could have a mint chassis on their shelf queen. It seems like a shame for me to take it to the track and tear it up. So I've offered Ari straight trade. He doesn't know me from a hole in the ground, but my OCD requires me to offer him this chassis so that he has a mint chassis for his shelf queen. And my OCD also is not so comfortable with the idea of taking a mint vintage Junior 2 chassis from 1991 to the racetrack to tear it all up. So I've offered this to Ari, no strings attached. I'll mail you my chassis. When you get it, then mail me your used chassis, and that'll be all good. So that means that the Junior 2 SE project that I'm working on is going to be delayed because I don't expect Ari to throw his chassis in the mail until he gets mine. He could if he wants to. I didn't ask for anything. Just said, hey dude, you've got a shelf queen and I have a mint chassis. I'll give you the mint chassis to make your shelf queen better. Because we're good like that up here in Canada. And so I learned more about the Jam & J shock tower that I installed on my Junior 2 SE, and it is part of a kit, and you are supposed to use the LXT hub carriers, axle carriers, steering blocks, whatever we're calling them, and I don't have those and I don't intend on getting those. So today on eBay I bought a set front and rear of A&L reproduction Pro SE shock towers to put on that. So we'll get back to that when I get my chassis from Ari and I get those shock towers from eBay. So in the meantime, what started all of this, I wouldn't be talking to you about a Junior 2 SE project if all this madness hadn't have happened. So going back a year ago, I don't even remember how I met Doug or how Doug and I started doing business. But Doug in the States sent me a JrX2. What was our first deal, Doug? Man, getting old sucks. Anyway, in the end, I got some vintage parts for JrX2s and then JrX2s in different purchases from Doug. And I was working on having a JrX2 runner and then a JrX2 shelf queen. And some of the parts were not making sense, like this runner shouldn't have these parts because they're very early edition JrX2 parts. And I started to pull my head out of my butt and decided to tear everything apart, look at all the extra parts I had, clean everything, sort everything, organize everything. And in doing that, I thought, incorrectly, that I would actually have enough to build 4 JrX2s. And I think I was basing that on the fact that I had 4 chassis, I had 4 bodies, 4 gearboxes plus arms in excess. So I started this venture. I think the first video was published on December 28th to try and build 4 JrX2s. Now, did I have enough parts on hand on December 28th to build 4 JrX2s? I did not. Crush, what is your major malfunction? Sorry, Crush decided he doesn't want to be in this video. I think he's complaining to HR right now. I'm not sure. He's out there in the hallway crying. I'm assuming to HR. I don't know. Talk to your union rep. Either come back to work or go home for the day. All right. He's quiet now. Okay, so I did not have enough parts on hand on the 20th of December to build 4 JrX2s, but it was awfully close. And then I bought the Junior 2 from Richard, which was full of new old stock parts, which helped elevate a couple of different cars. Talked about that a lot. Stole some parts off of it for the JrX Pro. Stole the shocks off of it for the Runner. The reproduction wheels that were supposed to be on the Shelf Queen went on the Runner. They've got modern tires, J Concepts rips up front, rips. Groovy. And flip outs on the back. Not really appropriate for what we run on, but regardless. And then we know that there was the tire fiasco. I tried to get these tires off of an original set of rims that I got from Doug, and I melted them, and then I had to buy another set of original new in the package orange wheels. The primary reason for buying the Junior 2 from Richard was to get these step pin tires, which they came on the Junior 2, but let's not forget they also came with the JrX2, and I wanted my box stock JrX2 to have original JrX2 tires, or at least what would have come with the JrX2. So anyway, along the way, yes, parts had to be purchased to finish all these, but they are all finished. So let's go through them real quick. This one is my keeper. This is my personal Shelf Queen. This one has the most parts that are very early, and by that I mean like the shock collars are the early generation. The 5-link suspension is early. There's fewer holes. There's an extra rib where a rib was taken off later to give spring clearance. The side bulkheads are early. They don't have all the extra reinforcing webs for strength. The chassis is not beautiful, but it doesn't have any extra holes. And I used a chassis protector to hide the scratches, so I'm cheating a little bit. It has the original top shaft with the brass idler gear in the low rotating mass LRP? Low LPM? They had an acronym for their low rotating something gearbox back in the day. So after that, put that back. That was the whole focus, is to get one really, really nice one. We'll put that back later. Second, then I took my next best parts and built a second Shelf Queen. Chassis is clean. It's far from mint. It's absolutely far from mint, but it's not horrific. Unfortunately, even though it's in better condition than the one I chose for my Shelf Queen, it does have extra holes built for servo mounts, which everybody did back in the day. That was normal. It's very hard to find one. I'm willing to bet that when you find a JrX2 or JrXT chassis that was not drilled, or Pro for that matter, or Pro SE, that was not drilled for servo mounts, that person wasn't racing, because you needed to have that servo secure to be successful on the track for racing. So I think this modification of adding servo mounts to the chassis was predominantly done by racers. That's a theory. Yeah, so it's in good shape. It has the second best. Some of the parts are equal in quality to my personal Shelf Queen. The parts are not necessarily as early. I think that the 5-link is early. It is the 2-hole, not the 4-hole, for the lower shock mount. Still has original 5-spoke wheels, but they're red, not orange. These are vintage Team Losi tires, but they're not step pin, so everything in here is still original JrX2 with the exception of the body and wing. That's the only thing that's reproduction on this one, and it is also a very, very clean car, currently for sale. Not a single inquiry, except for some troll from Quebec who was probably just a 14-year-old kid who could not understand. Well, he was a troll. There's no way he didn't get it. But anyway, other than that troll, zero interest in this car. Same as my Big Boss that's for sale. Zero interest. So the vintage market is not as hot as I thought it was. So this one is still possibly, I will trade it for something of interest. Yeah. And then my Runner. So the Runner is still pretty original. There's some aftermarket stuff on it. I've got one of the Robinson Racing, I think it's Robinson Racing, spur gears on it. That white spur gear there is an aftermarket part. The Junior 2 shocks. This one has servo mounts, and I'm using them. Mind you, I'm still using a FP148 servo. Nothing crazy there. It has one of those brushless, lipo-compatible ESC motor combos from like Banggood, AliExpress, Temu, one of those things, like 80 bucks Canadian to your door. It has a knockoff Futaba receiver that was like 25 bucks a piece. Yeah, so looking forward to getting this on the track. Oh, and extremely important when you're running the vintage cars is to use a front bulkhead brace. So the pins are longer to accommodate this brace that goes across the front. Sometimes they're carbon fiber, sometimes they're aluminum, and they prevent the bulkhead from failing when you take a hit in the front corner. It holds the front end together. So it even has oil in the shocks. Like, this is track ready. It's programmed to my radio, the whole 9 yards. I can't get a lipo into it unless I buy one of those aftermarket lipo battery trays. I might, but for what I'm doing with this thing, I'm happy to run it with a NiCad, and I have some, or nickel metal hydride, and I have some brand new, because you can still buy them, nickel metal hydrate packs. So I don't intend on racing this. I just will run it on a track. So I'm cool with using nickel metal hydride. I don't know why, but, well, I think I know why. It's durability. I mean, so the bolts that hold the shock tower to the front bulkhead, sometimes they crack up here. There used to be no hole in the front. The hole all the way through is a later thing. And anyway, I've chosen to run longer bolts and put nuts on them to add some strength, I guess. And then last but not least, this is, and this one is kind of whatever's left. So the body came on something I got from Doug, and it wasn't cut out. And I cut it out using the dimples. When I come out of the mold, sometimes little dimples to show you where to drill the holes for the wing and the body mounts and these side bulkheads. And I did that, and none of them lined up. So it's a bit of a shame. Okay, so with the help of Richard, someone who is in the Team Losey Vintage groups on Facebook, I've purchased from him a couple of times now. I was able to get a couple of things to finish this. I was missing part of the steering, and I was missing actually one of those little spacers that goes on the axle between the bearing and the pin. And what else? Needed a battery tray. So now it's all there. One thing of note, and I'm saying this because full disclosure, I'm selling this car. The front bodies are JrX2 front bodies, but the shafts are rear shafts. So the front shafts are longer, and so it does not have its full droop. Well, droop's not the right word, because droop is how far it comes down, but it bottoms out sooner than it should. So in the ad, that will be full disclosure, because I don't know if someone wants to start this as the basis for their Shelf Queen, or if they want to run it, bash it, whatever. So they should know the front shafts are too long, and to keep an eye out for some shorter, appropriate JrX2 front shock shafts. Springs are fine. The collars are not Team Losey. I don't know what brand they are. Front and back, the collars are not Team Losey. They're different, which means they're not cracking. These rear springs are probably not Team Losey. And they're not Team Losey rear springs, period. Oh, and the other thing of note, I mean, the chassis has got a lot of holes drilled in it. That's too bad. But the bottom spring cups that attach the rear shocks to the 5-link suspension, they were stripped out. So I have gone with a 256 bolt, socket head bolt, and a nut. So depending, like, it's not touching the tires, but it's awful close to touching the tires. Actually, this tire is not glued on the rim straight, and every once in a while I think one pin contacts that bolt. Maybe, maybe not. So again, but it'll be priced accordingly. This is 250 bucks. Anybody wants a JrX2 roller? 250 bucks. Has a body, has a wing, has a gear cover, complete transmission. It's all there, but it's not all necessarily correct. The rear springs are wrong. The shock collars are not low-Z, which frankly is not a bad thing. And oh, and the bolts that hold the lower shock collars, spring cups, whatever, for the 5-link suspension, they're stripped out. So they're attached with an actual bolt and a nut. So anyway, that's it, folks. It's done. It's done. I went in too deep, spent more than I wanted to. But once I start something, I'm a completionist. I have to get it finished. Otherwise, I can't function. So there we have it. 4 JrX2s done. Of the 4, keeping 2, selling 2, selling 1 Shelf Queen or trade, and selling off this JrX2 roller parts car. So now that this is done, if you remember, if you've been one of the 4 people that watch all videos all the way to the end, then you'll remember kind of one of the purposes of this whole thing was. Think back to my I built a S-Works kit and I hated it video, and thought, okay, my experience in building kits as a kid, I misspoke in a video. I said Team Associate. It wasn't Team Associate back in the day. When I was a kid, I started on Kyosho, and then I was Team Lozi, and then I built my Associated pan car. When I got back into RC in 2020, I was all in on the Team Associated. I built a Techno kit. So I built Kyosho, Lozi, Vintage Lozi. Never built Vintage Associated. Owned them, never built one, like from the kit. So back in the day, it was Kyosho and Vintage Team Lozi. And then in the modern era, it was Team Associated, Techno, and that S-Works that was abysmal. What a horrible building experience. Oh, and I built a CRC carpet knife, which was, there's a lot of whining about that one too. So, but a lot of this is me and needing to be black and white. Like for me, a manual has to say tab A goes into slot B. You can't leave anything to the imagination. I'm way too, well, some say I'm autistic, but I don't believe it. But I'm very, very literal. So that's one of the reasons why I hate building airplanes and hate building airplanes. Love this stuff because this screw goes in this hole and the screw has to be this size, and it's very, very, very specific. The S-Works kit was not as specific as I would like. So again, your mileage may vary, but that video prompted a little bit of hate in the comments and some criticism from the S-Works fanboys, and good on you. You're allowed to like it, just like I'm allowed to not like it. So that was like, let's build other kits and do a comparison and contrast, which is what started all of this. Build a 1988 JrX2 kit following the manual. So I took all my parts and I put them in the bags and labeled the bags, and I made those bags based on the steps in the manual. And so now that I did that and I made a video about that, next is to do a comparison and contrast between building a 1984 RC10 following the manual, what that experience was like, building a 1988 JrX2, having recreated a kit and following the manual, and then compare and contrast those two building experiences, what the design is like, what the manual is like, and then actually compare and contrast the cars. I wish that I had a JrX2 runner. I wish I still had my own personal track, because I could have made a lot of content on my backyard track. It had an actual MyLapse timing system, driver stand, the whole, it was a legit track. We held races there. Would it ever be cool to do like some of those backyard attack videos or time attack videos like the Vintage Backyard RC channel does? Mad respect for that channel and the work that he does over there. So yeah, if I still have my track, I would totally rip that off. So it's gone. So let's move on. Time to get over it, build a bridge. So anyway, now that the RC10s are all built, or now that the JrX2s are all built and it's decided what's going to happen with them, it's time to move on to this project, which is build the RC10 and then compare and contrast. So stay tuned for that. That'll be one of the next series on the channel here. And yeah, we'll get this is about the last car thing for the channel, because it's definitely airplane mode. I'm already working on airplanes in the basement in between these vintage RC car videos. So there was a tour my hangar video recently that you might want to check out if you're into airplanes. It's only part of the hangar. There's over 50 airplanes in my collection right now. Probably, well over half are legit ready to fly. My goal is to have like 85% ready to fly. So there's a lot of airplane work to do. So, all right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for following along with the JrX2 vintage restoration project. That's done. That series is over. Now it's a new series of comparing the RC10 to the JrX2. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, thank you for watching, liking, subscribing. Bye for now.